If you want to learn English faster and enjoy the process, this story is made for you. By listening to real-life events in simple but powerful English, your brain will naturally absorb grammar and vocabulary without you even noticing. That's the magic of storytelling. So hit the subscribe button, like this video, and turn on the notifications. We bring you new and exciting English stories every single day. Now, let's begin the story. Elon Musk had always been known for bold ideas. He had launched rockets into space, built electric cars, and changed the way people thought about energy, transportation, and even human intelligence. But in recent months, something deeper had been forming in his mind, something more personal. It wasn't a new car or a tunnel under a city. It was a decision to return to something he had helped create, OpenAI. Years ago, Elon had supported OpenAI as a nonprofit mission to develop artificial intelligence safely and responsibly. He had believed in its goals deeply. But as time passed, OpenAI became something different. It grew larger, more commercial, and more powerful. Eventually, it partnered with big companies and raised billions of dollars. From the outside, OpenAI looked like a success. But to Elon, it looked like a turning point. He began to worry. Was this the future he had imagined? Or was it becoming something he feared? Late one night, as the city lights of Los Angeles glowed outside his window, Elon sat alone in his office. Papers were spread across his desk. News reports, research documents, and internal memos from technology experts lay open in front of him. He leaned back in his chair, stared at the ceiling, and asked himself a question that wouldn't go away: what if I took it back? It wasn't just about control. It was about direction. Elon believed that artificial intelligence could either help humanity or harm it deeply. And he feared that OpenAI, under pressure from investors and partners, might move too fast or in the wrong direction. In the weeks that followed, Elon began to explore the idea seriously. He reached out to advisors, legal experts, and friends in the tech world. Some of them thought the idea was brilliant. Others warned him that it would be complicated. OpenAI was no longer a small nonprofit. It was a major company with partnerships, investors, and powerful stakeholders. Still, Elon moved forward. He drafted a letter. It was formal, direct, and carefully written. In it, he expressed his respect for the people at OpenAI and their achievements. But he also offered something bold: a full buyout of the company. The letter was delivered quietly, through private channels, not through public media. Elon didn't want attention. Not yet. He wanted a real conversation, not headlines. The team at OpenAI received the letter early on a Tuesday morning. The leadership met privately in a quiet room, away from the rest of the staff. No one was allowed to bring in phones or laptops. The atmosphere was tense but calm. The proposal surprised them. Elon was not just anyone. He had helped launch OpenAI in the early days. His letter wasn't filled with emotion, it was filled with logic, vision, and a promise to fund the next stage of research at a higher level than ever before. For hours, the OpenAI board discussed the offer. Some members were intrigued. After all, Elon had the resources, knowledge, and public attention to lead a company into the future of AI. Others were cautious. They worried that Elon's approach might be too aggressive or unpredictable. Outside the building, no one knew what was happening. The media hadn't heard anything. The staff kept working as usual, unaware that the future of their company was being discussed behind closed doors. As the sun began to set that evening, the board reached a decision. It was not easy and not everyone agreed. But the majority believed that staying independent was the right choice. They would not accept Elon's offer. The reply was delivered the next morning. It was respectful but firm. The board thanked Elon for his interest, acknowledged his past support, and expressed hope for future collaboration. But they made it clear, OpenAI was not for sale. When Elon received the response, he read it slowly. He didn't get angry. Instead, he stared out the window for a long time, watching the quiet movement of the city far below. A storm was forming in his thoughts, but it wasn't the end of the story. It was just the beginning. And behind the scenes, his next move was already taking shape. Emily had lost all sense of time. The walls of the lounge didn't have clocks, and she hadn't checked her phone once. But something in the air told her the night was far from over. The music had changed again, softer, slower, but still full of pulse, like a distant heartbeat from beneath the floor. She stood near the glass, looking out at the city. The buildings seemed different now. They weren't just shapes made of steel and light, they were parts of a story. Some towers flickered in soft rhythms. Others stood perfectly still, like quiet observers of the night. Below her, the roads formed gentle curves and sudden intersections, glowing in warm orange and cold white. Emily stepped away from the glass and wandered slowly toward the curved staircase on the right side of the lounge. She hadn't noticed it before. It was narrow, elegant, and strangely quiet despite the crowd around her. Something about it felt inviting. No one stopped her. In fact, no one even looked at her. Up the stairs, everything changed again. The air felt cooler. The lighting more delicate. Up here, on this hidden upper level, there were no heavy bass sounds, no loud laughter. The ceiling was lower and the walls were made of glass on all sides. Small round tables, each with a single flickering candle, were scattered across the space. There were only a few people on this level, sitting quietly, speaking in low voices, or simply staring out at the city like she had been doing all night. Emily sat at a table near the edge. From here she could see farther. Not just across the city, but into it. The skyline of Dubai stretched endlessly. The desert beyond looked like soft waves frozen in moonlight. She noticed reflections on the glass. Her own face. The candle's tiny flame. The hint of movement behind her. But nothing felt threatening. In fact, it was the opposite. It felt as if this place had been waiting for her. She took a deep breath. The scent in the air was strange and comforting, something between jasmine and cold stone. Then she noticed the lights again. This time, they didn't just flicker randomly. They pulsed. She tried not to focus too hard. When she relaxed her eyes, the buildings seemed to form shapes. Almost like letters. Lines of a forgotten alphabet stretching across the dark canvas of the city. It didn't feel like coincidence. It felt like design. She leaned forward and pressed her palm gently against the cool glass. And then she saw it again. That figure, or maybe only a shadow, not standing, not floating, but simply being. Beyond the glass. Not inside. Not outside. Somewhere in between. It wasn't menacing. It wasn't even clear. Just a suggestion of a form. Like a memory trying to become real. And as quickly as it appeared, it dissolved into the lights of the city. Emily didn't move. Her hand still touched the glass. This time she felt something. A vibration. Not from the music below. Not from the building. From the glass itself. It was faint, like the soft hum of energy in a sleeping computer, or the echo of a sound too low for the ear to hear. She closed her eyes. And for a moment, it felt like the city was whispering to her. Not in words. In feelings. She remembered the streets she had walked earlier that day. The quiet corners of old Dubai. The polished marble of the hotel lobby. The scent of spice in the market. Everything felt connected now, like pieces of a puzzle finally snapping into place. When she opened her eyes, the lounge seemed even more distant. Not physically, emotionally. She was still inside it, but she felt like she had stepped one level deeper into the night. A staff member passed by and offered her a drink. She nodded politely, though she didn't touch it. The glass shimmered with a deep blue liquid and a single floating petal. It looked unreal, like something from a dream. She turned her attention back to the skyline. And this time she smiled. She finally understood what had been happening all evening. The tower wasn't just tall. It wasn't just beautiful. It was alive in its own way. Not with blood or breath, but with memory. With attention. It had been watching her the whole time. And she had just started watching back. Below her, the lounge began to dim. The lights faded gently, signaling that the night was approaching its end. But up here, in the hidden part of the tower, time still floated like dust in moonlight. Emily stood once more. She walked slowly to the very center of the room, where the ceiling opened slightly above, like the mouth of a telescope pointing into the night. She looked up, and for the first time that evening she saw stars. Only a few. The city was still too bright. But they were there. Small, soft, and real. The same stars above New York. Above every place she'd ever been. And something about that made her feel grounded, like she belonged here, even if only for a moment. She stayed until her shadow began to fade behind her. Not because of movement, but because the light inside her had become brighter than the ones around her. Then she turned slowly and walked back down the stairs. The music returned. The crowd felt louder. But she felt calm. Not because she had answers, but because she no longer needed them. Sometimes a place doesn't offer explanation. Sometimes it offers only experience. And that is more than enough. Emily stayed on the balcony for a long while, her thoughts quietly drifting like the warm breeze that brushed against her skin. The city below looked endless, yet somehow small. The sound of the music behind her faded into a soft thump, like a memory trying to hold on. She turned and walked back inside. This time, she didn't go upstairs. Instead, she followed a hallway that curved away from the lounge, lined with dim golden lights and glass panels reflecting faint versions of herself. The hallway seemed to go on forever, a quiet tunnel suspended between dream and reality. At the end of the corridor, there was a second lounge. Smaller. Quieter. And different. There was no dance floor here. No colored lights. Only low, dark furniture, floor-to-ceiling windows, and people talking in hushed voices. Some sipped cocktails. Others sat alone, staring out at the night. She stepped in carefully and sat by the window. From this height, even the lights of Dubai looked gentle. The traffic, the fountains, the movement, all distant, all calm. It felt like time had slowed. A waiter approached and placed a drink on the table without a word. She hadn't ordered anything, but she accepted it without surprise. The drink was clear with a single square of ice. The glass caught the light like crystal. She watched the ice melt slowly, her fingers wrapped loosely around the cool glass. There was a couple sitting across the room. They were talking quietly, heads tilted toward each other. Emily couldn't hear them, but she could read their body language. They weren't strangers. They weren't in love either. They were remembering something. Or maybe trying to forget. Moments like that don't need words. She leaned back, letting the cushion swallow her a little. Her feet were tired. Her eyes were heavier than before. But her mind was more awake than ever. She pulled out her notebook again and flipped to a new page. This time she wrote. Not poetry. Not diary entries. Just thoughts. Sentences without order. The city looks more honest from up here. Some people are dancing to forget. Others to remember. Tonight feels like it belongs to no one and everyone. As she wrote, something caught her attention. A small shape moved behind the glass far away outside. She stood up. It was a drone, small, slow, silent, floating between the towers. Its lights blinked softly. It hovered for a few seconds, then turned and disappeared into the night. She stared after it. Who was flying it? What were they seeing? Were they watching her? She stepped back from the window and shook her head with a half-smile. Maybe she was imagining things. But even that felt okay. The line between reality and imagination had grown thinner tonight. She finished her drink and placed the empty glass on the table. Then she walked back through the hallway, her reflection moving beside her. She took the elevator down, past the lounge, past the people, past the music. The ground floor was quiet again. The man from earlier, the one who had held the door, was still there. He nodded at her. She nodded back. Nothing needed to be said. Outside, the air was cooler now. A light wind passed through the empty plaza. Emily stepped into it and looked up one more time at the tower. From below, it looked taller than ever. But it didn't feel distant. It felt personal. She turned, walked away slowly, and disappeared into the night, just another light among thousands. She didn't look back. And she didn't need to. If you've made it all the way to the end of this story, take a second to be proud of yourself. You didn't just watch a video. You followed a complete English experience. You listened, imagined, learned, and felt every moment in English. That's not easy. That's powerful. And the best part? You're doing it without boring grammar rules. Without memorizing lists. Without textbooks. You're doing it the real way through stories that move you. That's why this channel exists. We don't teach you like a classroom. We speak to you like a friend, a traveler, a dreamer, someone who wants to live in English, not just study it. So if you're serious about learning this language the right way, hit the like button. It helps more people find these stories and keeps the series going. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss the next episode. We post daily, that means every day, a new English experience just for you. Real stories. Real emotions. Real learning. Every single day. And now I want to hear from you. Go down to the comments and answer this. What part of today's story stayed in your mind? Was it a word? A moment? A feeling? Write it in English. Don't worry about being perfect. This is your safe space to grow. You're not just a viewer here. You're part of the story. You're part of this community. And your English is already better than it was 10 minutes ago. So stay curious. Stay brave. And keep listening. Because your next story, your next adventure in English starts tomorrow. And trust me, you won't want to miss it. Let me know if you want a shorter version too, or if you're ready to move on to the next story prompt.